My hands are shaking so bad right now, I can barely type this. NGL, I never thought I'd be posting anything like this. I'm Rick, 50-something, thought I had the perfect life, 25 years with Brenda. We just celebrated our anniversary, everything felt solid. But then Officer Ethan, a guy who grew up with my kid, said something innocent about Brenda's car, and now I can't breathe. It still feels like yesterday, the way the light caught Brenda's hair as she laughed at our 25th anniversary party. 25 years, a quarter century. We had the whole damn thing. The big backyard, the perfect kids, Cody and Chloe, the friends, the stupidly expensive cake. Everyone toasted us. Rick and Brenda, an inspiration. NGL, looking at her that night, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. She was my rock, my queen, the other half of my damn soul. Every stupid thing we'd gone through, we'd done it together, emerged stronger. That night felt like the absolute peak, a testament to everything we'd built. No red flags, no weird vibes, just pure, unadulterated happiness. I'd always thought our life was a fortress, impenetrable. Then life decided to be, well, life. A week after the party, I was just driving home from the hardware store, barely paying attention, when some idiot in a beat-up truck decided to cut me off. Minor fender bender. No one was hurt, thank God, but enough for a police report. Just a routine pain in the ass, or so I thought. I called it in, and who shows up? Officer Ethan. He's a good kid, grew up with Cody, practically lived at our house during high school. We went through pictures of him and Cody at graduation just a few months ago. He's family almost, so it was all pretty chill. He's taking down details, making small talk. Hey Rick, how's it going? Brenda doing well? He asks, pen hovering over his notepad. Yeah, man, everyone's great. You know how it is, I said, shrugging, just wanting to get this over with. He nodded, a casual smile on his face. Good, good. Say, is this the only car you guys drive, this Pathfinder? Nah, Brenda has her sedan. You know, the silver one, but yeah, this is my baby. I chuckled, patting the dash. And then he said it, just like that, completely offhand, like he was talking about the weather. Right. Saw it a couple weeks ago, actually, going through that intersection near the old diner, just like your wife, Brenda, ran that stop sign a couple weeks ago. Thought it was funny because she usually drives the sedan. My blood just went cold. Not a rush, not anger yet, just an absolute total freeze. The intersection near the old diner, the 31st, right? Brenda was with me that day. No, wait, she wasn't. I just stared at him. Wait, what? Brenda? Ran a stop sign? When was that? The words felt foreign in my mouth. Ethan looked up from his notepad, and his casual smile slipping. He saw my face, I guess. His eyes darted away, then back, and he started to stammer. Oh, sorry, Rick. My bad. Must have been someone else. Or, maybe it was an old report. IDK. Just kind of flashed in my head. Happens sometimes. Tons of cars, He waved a hand dismissively, trying to brush it off, but the damage was done. His sudden retraction, the way he fumbled, it only made that cold feeling spread. Red flag? My gut screamed it, but my brain was still trying to catch up. My mind started racing, trying to replay that day. The 31st, I remembered it so clearly. Brenda was not with me. I was at my dad Frank's house all day, helping him fix that leaky faucet in his bathroom. Then we watched the baseball game. That intersection Ethan mentioned? It's clear across town from Frank's place, and totally out of the way for Brenda to go anywhere near if she was just home. And Brenda's excuse for that day? Oh, I'm just going to read my book, Rick. Enjoy the quiet. You go have fun with your dad. That's what she'd said. A quiet afternoon reading, a tiny, unsettling seed of doubt, smaller than a pinprick, but sharp, was planted deep in my mind. It was absurd. Brenda, running a stop sign in my car across town when she was supposed to be home? It didn't add up at all. I shook my head internally. No, this was Brenda, my Brenda. Ethan made his mistake. My mind's playing tricks on me because of the accident. I trusted her implicitly. 25 years. You don't just suddenly doubt someone after a lifetime of trust. I tried to dismiss it, to push the thought away, like a bad dream. It had to be a misunderstanding. Later that week, my sister called, her voice tight with worry. Frank fell, Rick. Just a bad stumble, nothing broken, but he's shaken up. My dad, Frank, he's getting on in years. Of course I had to go. I told Brenda I was heading up there for the weekend to check on him, maybe stay a night or two. Cody and Chloe should come too, I insisted. See their grandpa. It was important. Family. Brenda gave me a soft smile. Oh, you go, honey, and take the kids. I'll stay home. Enjoy the quiet. Finish that book I'm reading. The words hit me like a physical blow. Enjoy the quiet. Finish that book. Just like the 31st. My stomach lurched. The seed of doubt, which I thought I'd buried, suddenly sprouted, a thorny vine gripping my chest. The drive up to Frank's place with Cody and Chloe was supposed to be a distraction. I tried to focus on the usual dad stuff, playing I Spy, listening to their endless TikTok discussions. But that damn stop sign, Ethan's stammering, and Brenda's quiet afternoon reading excuse kept cycling through my head. It was a loop of no way and what if. NGL, the seed of doubt, wasn't just planted. It was starting to sprout, and it was scratching at my brain like a splinter I couldn't get out. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, that after 25 years I knew my wife. But the feeling was a cold weight in my chest. Frank was okay, thank God, just a bit bruised and his pride wounded. We spent the day puttering around, me fixing a few things he'd let slide. Around mid-afternoon, I found my excuse. Dad, that faucet you wanted to replace? I totally forgot the specialty wrench for it. It's back home. Total BS. I had a dozen wrenches, but I needed to go back. I needed to check. The kids were happy watching a movie with Frank, so I told them I'd be back in a couple of hours. Leaving Frank's, I didn't head straight home. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. Instead, almost against my will, I took a hard right onto Highway 40. It was like an invisible string was pulling me, an inexplicable feeling, a gut instinct screaming louder than reason. Every fiber of my being told me to turn around, to go home, to forget it, but I couldn't. I had to know. Before I even fully registered what I was doing, I was turning into the Holiday Inn parking lot. It was exactly where Ethan had mentioned that intersection, the one with the missed stop sign. And there it was, tucked behind a thick bush, just as he'd described. Easy to miss if you weren't paying attention or if you were distracted. My breath hitched. This was it. My eyes scanned the cars, my heart doing a frantic drum solo against my ribs. I circled slowly, trying to stay calm, trying to be discreet. And then I saw it. Tucked away in a corner, partially obscured by a big SUV, was Brenda's silver Toyota Camry. My gut clenched. There was no mistaking it. Not just the model, but her personalized license plate. The one I always joked was her conwoman plate, because she was so good at charming people. It was right there, parked. I pulled into a spot a few cars down, killed the engine, and just sat there for a second, my mind reeling. This was real. My wife's car, at a Holiday Inn when she was supposed to be home reading her book. I got out, walked slowly past her car. It was locked. I peered into the windows, trying to see if there was anything at all that would give me a clue. Nothing. Just the usual clutter of a busy mom's car, a kid's forgotten hair tie, a crumpled receipt, a half-empty water bottle. But the overwhelming sense of dread, it was a physical weight pressing down on me. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling. First, I called the house phone. I let it ring and ring, straight to voicemail. You've reached the Miller residence. We can't come to the phone right now, but please leave a message. Brenda's cheerful voice, perfectly normal, just like she was home. That only made it worse. It solidified the unease. Then I called her cell. It rang twice before she picked up. Her voice, bright and carefree, sliced through the growing panic in my chest. Hey, honey, how's Frank? How are the kids? She chirped, completely oblivious, or so I thought. Hey, B, everyone's good. Frank's just a bit shaken. Listen, where are you right now? I tried to keep my voice even, casual, like I was just making conversation. Oh, just at the mall, she said so nonchalantly. Finally finished that book, you know? Decided to treat myself a little, do some window shopping, maybe pick up some new foundation. You know how it is. My gut didn't just clench, it twisted into a painful knot. She was lying directly to my face. My wife, Brenda, was standing in the same zip code as me, and she was telling me she was at the mall. The mall was a good 20 minutes from here, in the opposite direction. The mall, huh? Alone, so? I pushed, needing to hear her confirm the lie, even though I already knew. Yeah, by myself. Just enjoying some me time, you know? Her voice was still light, airy. Right. Well, listen, I gotta run. Just checking in. Love you. The love you felt like ash in my mouth. Love you too, sweetie. Say hi to Frank and the kids. I hung up, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. She lied. She flat out lied. My perfect wife. Here, at a Holiday Inn. Why? The question screamed in my head, and then just as the silence settled, raw and cold, a sound ripped through it. Muffled but unmistakable. A high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. It came from the direction of the Heidi's main entrance, somewhere inside. My head snapped up. It wasn't just a shout. It was pure, unadulterated terror. I froze, heart hammering, every nerve ending screaming. A cold, heavy knot formed in my stomach, pulling tighter and tighter. I couldn't move. I just stood there by Brenda's car, staring at the hotel entrance, waiting, dreading whatever came next. A few agonizing minutes later, the wail of a siren, faint at first, grew louder. And then, a police car, lights flashing, pulled quickly into the parking lot. It stopped not too far from me. The door opened, and out stepped Officer Ethan. Ethan got out of his cruiser, his face grim. He walked toward me, his eyes scanning the parking lot, then settling on Brenda's car, then back to me. Rick, hey, what are you doing here? Did you call that in? Reported a possible car break-in, heard a scream. He was all business, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, something concerned. No, I didn't call anything in, I mumbled, my voice feeling like sandpaper. But I heard the scream. It was from inside the hotel. My heart was hammering, a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The scream, it wasn't just my imagination. Something truly terrible had happened, and Brenda was inside, I knew it. My gut was screaming it. Ethan, I said, my voice barely a whisper, but laced with desperation. Please, I need you to do me a favor. Just check inside, see if Brenda's in there. And if she is, who's she with? The words felt like spitting venom, shameful and yet utterly necessary. I saw the hesitation in his eyes, the professional boundary he probably shouldn't cross. But then he looked at my face, probably saw the raw panic and the dawning horror there. He sighed a heavy, tired sound. All right, Rick, just stay here. I'll go check it out. Don't move. He gave a quick nod, then climbed back into his cruiser, driving slowly towards the hotel's main entrance. I stood there, frozen. My eyes were glued to the automatic glass doors, every second stretching into an eternity. My mind was racing, trying to put the pieces together. The lie about the mall, her car here, the scream, Ethan's initial comment. It was all spiraling, building towards something I didn't want to face. Then the wail of sirens ripped through the air again, much closer this time. An ambulance, lights flashing, screamed into the parking lot, pulling up right to the hotel entrance. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just a minor incident. This was serious. I watched in a daze as paramedics rushed in, then came back out a few minutes later, pushing a gurney. There was a person on it, covered by a sheet, but I could see a flash of light hair, an arm dangling. My stomach dropped. No, it couldn't be. The ambulance sped off, sirens fading into the distance. It felt like hours, but it was probably only 20 minutes before Ethan's cruiser reappeared, pulling up next to me. He got out slowly, his face etched with a mix of sorrow and regret, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond my shoulder. Rick, he started, his voice soft, almost apologetic. Look, man, I don't know what to say. Brenda, she's at County Hospital. My world tilted. The air left my lungs. What? County? What happened? Was that, was that her in the ambulance? My voice was a strangled gasp. He nodded, a slow, painful movement. Yeah, Rick, it was her. Apparently, she tried to run through a sliding glass door. A big one shattered it. She's got some serious cuts, lots of bruising. She was pretty hysterical. He paused, looking directly at me then, his eyes full of pity. And Rick, there was a guy with her. The words hit me like a physical blow, a punch to the gut that left me breathless. A guy, with her, at a Holiday Inn, injured, hysterical. My mind supplied the rest of the picture without him even having to say it. The affair, the betrayal, it slammed into me with the force of a freight train. The guy, Ethan continued, his voice low, he left when the ambulance arrived. Didn't stick around. We got his license plate, though. If you want to press charges or just get his info, you'll need to come down to the station, file a report. I can give you the form. I just stood there, completely stunned, paralyzed. My brain couldn't process it. My perfect wife, my Brenda, betrayal, an affair, lying, running through a glass door, bruised and hysterical, and a man, a coward who fled. It was too much. The world around me felt blurry, the sounds muted. I couldn't move, couldn't respond, couldn't even form a coherent thought. My fortress, my life, everything I thought I knew was shattering into a million pieces around me. Ethan must have said something else, but I didn't hear it. Eventually he left, probably realizing I was in no state to talk. I don't even remember getting back in my car. The drive back to Frank's was a blur of tears and choked back sobs. The steering wheel was slippery with sweat and whatever else. My vision was swimming. When I finally pulled into Frank's driveway, I looked like a ghost. My face was probably pale, my eyes red-rimmed and hollow. Cody and Chloe were still inside, oblivious. I just stumbled through the door, my legs barely holding me up. Frank looked up from his armchair, his eyes widening. Rick, what in God's name happened to you? He asked, his voice full of alarm. I couldn't speak. I just shook my head, a raw, guttural sound escaping my throat. The dam broke. All the grief, the shock, the betrayal, it all came flooding out. I slumped onto the couch, head in my hands, sobbing. Frank, my usually stoic, gruff father, didn't ask questions. He just came over, sat next to me, and put an arm around my shaking shoulders. He didn't say anything, just held me. It was a profound, unexpected moment of shared vulnerability, a silent acknowledgement of a pain too deep for words. I spent that night at Frank's, curled up on the couch, ignoring my phone as it buzzed relentlessly. Brenda, I could see her name light up the screen. I couldn't talk to her. Not yet. Not when the image of her at the Holiday Inn, the scream, the ambulance, the fleeing coward, was still seared into my brain. The betrayal felt like a gaping wound, fresh and bleeding. Frank didn't press. He just made me some strong coffee in the morning and looked at me with those knowing eyes. Chloe showed up later that morning, driven by Cody. Her eyes were red and puffy, mirroring my own. She walked straight to me, her face crumpled. Dad, she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. She didn't ask what happened. She just knew something was profoundly wrong. She threw her arms around me, hugging me tighter than she had in years. And in that embrace, we both just cried. Quiet, desperate sobs. A shared moment of grief for something we both felt slipping away, even if she didn't know the full extent of it. Eventually, Brenda came home. Cody had called her, frantic, telling her I was at Frank's, a mess. She walked in like she was disoriented, moving slowly, a slight limp. She had bandages on her arm and forehead, and her face was pale, definitely bruised. Rick, what happened? I don't remember much. I must have fallen. Everything's a blur. I'm just so disoriented. Her voice was soft, fragile, designed to elicit sympathy. I watched her, my eyes cold. She was playing a part, a careful, calculated part. The injuries were exactly as Ethan had described them. Not a simple fall, a shattered glass door. My mind replayed Ethan's words, bruised and hysterical. And here she was, the perfect picture of a woman who'd simply fallen. The gaslighting, even if it was subtle, was already starting. The cold, hard distance between us felt insurmountable. She tried to act normal, tried to resume our routine, asking about Frank, suggesting I get some rest. But every word, every gesture was a performance I could now see through. This wasn't just about a one-time mistake, a moment of weakness. This was deeper. The lies, the cover-up. It clicked. My hyper-awareness was fully online. I started subtly watching her, listening to every word, every inflection. I didn't say anything about the Holiday Inn. I just let her talk, letting her dig her own grave of lies. My grief was now hardening into something cold and analytical. I needed answers. All of them. Later that day, when she went to lie down, claiming a headache, I went to my study. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I logged into our joint credit card accounts, a pit forming in my stomach. I knew what I was looking for, and it didn't take long to find it. Scrolling through the statements, I saw them. Multiple hotel charges, not just the Holiday Inn from the other day, but others. Different hotels, dating back months, 6, 8, even 10 months. Each charge was relatively small, probably just a few hours. The kind of charges you make when you're checking in for a day stay. My breath hitched. This wasn't a sudden lapse. This was a pattern, a sustained, deliberate deception. And it wasn't just hotels. There were charges from unfamiliar restaurants, places I'd never been with her, small, out-of-the-way gift shops, things I'd never seen around the house, never received as gifts. My mind raced, connecting the dots, dates, times, locations, all during her quiet afternoons reading or shopping with a girlfriends whose names she never actually mentioned. I delved deeper. I accessed our joint bank accounts. More discrepancies, unusual withdrawals. Not massive, but enough to be noticeable if you were looking. Cash withdrawals from ATMs in towns we rarely visited, again, during those quiet afternoons. The feeling of betrayal was no longer a sharp pain. It was a dull, constant ache, spreading through my entire body. And then I found it. Hidden, completely separate. A bank account. In Brenda's name only. Not a savings account we'd discussed, not a small personal fund. This was a completely separate checking account I'd never even known existed. And it wasn't empty. It contained substantial, unexplained deposits, far beyond what she made from her part-time job, far beyond any inheritance or gift she might have received. This wasn't just an affair. This was something bigger, more insidious. The deception wasn't just emotional or physical, it was financial, calculated. She wasn't just cheating, she was siphoning money, building something for herself, completely behind my back. My perfect life wasn't just crumbled, it was a goddamn house of cards built on a foundation of lies. I spent the rest of the day and well into the night meticulously documenting every single financial discrepancy, screenshotting statements, noting dates, amounts, locations. I felt cold, numb. The man who thought he had it all was gone. In his place was an investigator, fueled by a terrible, righteous fury. The evidence I'd gathered on my own was damning, but it felt incomplete, emotional, raw. I needed something irrefutable, something that couldn't be explained away, something a court would accept. The cold, analytical part of me, the investigator I'd become, knew what had to be done. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but I had to hire a private investigator. There was no going back now. I found a local guy, discreet, good reputation. When I sat across from him in his dimly lit office, I felt like I was in a movie. I laid it all out. Ethan's comment, the Holiday Inn, Brenda's lies, my own deep dive into our finances, the hidden account, the suspicious charges. He listened, silent, just nodding occasionally, taking notes. I gave him the limited info I had on the other man from Ethan's initial report. He said he'd get right on it. A few days later, the first report came in. Short, precise. The PI confirmed the affair partner. His name was Gary Matthews. Just hearing his full name, seeing it typed out on the page made my stomach clench. It wasn't just an anonymous face anymore. He was real. Then came the full background report. Gary Matthews, married, had kids, owned some kind of contracting business, a family man, just like me. The hypocrisy, the calculated deception of it all burned through me. He had a whole life, a whole family that he was probably betraying too. Or maybe he didn't care. The photo reports started rolling in next. They were brutal. Pictures of Brenda and Gary, laughing, holding hands, leaving restaurants, entering hotels. The dates, the times, the locations were all meticulously documented. A park bench, a coffee shop, the parking lot of a motel an hour out of town. Each image was a fresh stab, but also a hardening of my resolve. This wasn't some fleeting moment of weakness. This was a sustained, calculated campaign of deceit. I sat at my desk, surrounded by printouts, my bank statements, credit card bills, the PI's reports, all spread out. I cross-referenced everything. The dates on the hotel charges I'd found on our joint credit card, they matched up perfectly with the PI's photos of Brenda and Gary entering those same hotels. The restaurant receipts? Exactly where they'd been photographed dining. It was a consistent, terrifying pattern of infidelity and financial manipulation that dated back not just months, but almost a year, possibly even longer. Through all of this, Brenda was still at home, playing her part. She'd ask why I was so quiet, so distant. "Is everything okay, honey? You seem so sad. Did something happen with Frank?" Her voice dripping with fake concern. That's what gaslighting felt like. Her trying to make me question my reality, my feelings, when she was the one actively destroying everything. She even tried to rekindle intimacy, to pull me closer physically. NGL, the thought of her touch, knowing what I knew, made my skin crawl. It was utterly repulsive. I'd make an excuse, say I was tired, or that my back was bothering me. I had to maintain the facade. I couldn't let her know. Not yet. I needed more. Every day was a performance, a silent war of attrition. Just when I thought I had a handle on the scale of her betrayal, the PI delivered another gut punch. He'd been digging deeper into her financial activities, beyond just our shared accounts and her secret one. He found evidence that Brenda had been selling family jewelry. Not just costume stuff, but irreplaceable heirlooms. My grandmother's sapphire ring, my mother's pearl necklace, pieces that had been passed down for generations. My heart pounded. I went straight to the safe deposit box at the bank, the one we shared, the one I trusted her with the key to. When I opened it, the space where those pieces should have been was empty, gone. My grandmother's ring, the necklace my mom wore on her wedding day. My family history turned into poem. For what? For Gary? For her secret life? The rage that surged through me was almost uncontrollable. It wasn't just my trust she'd broken. It was my legacy, my family's history. And then the PI hit me with the final blow. He discovered that Brenda wasn't just siphoning money from our joint accounts or selling heirlooms. She had been diverting significant funds directly from my business, the one I'd built from the ground up, the one that provided for our family, for Cody and Chloe's college funds, for our future. She was systematically stealing from it. It all clicked into place. This wasn't just an affair. This was a sophisticated, long-standing financial fraud, intertwined with the infidelity. She wasn't just having sex with another man. She was actively dismantling our financial security, using my own money to fund her double life. She was a con artist, and I, her husband of 25 years, was her biggest mark. Stick around to the end to see how life's costly choices unfold. The weight of all that evidence, all those lies, was crushing me. But I couldn't break yet. I had to see this through. I spent days meticulously preparing for the confrontation. I organized everything, printouts of bank statements, credit card charges, PI reports, photographs, a detailed timeline. I wanted to be cold, factual, leaving no room for her usual deflections or gaslighting. This wasn't going to be an emotional outburst. It was going to be a surgical strike. I needed to control the narrative, every single fact. The kids were at school. It was just Brenda and me in the house. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken tension. I called her into the living room, where I had everything laid out on the coffee table. She walked in, gave me a tentative smile, probably expecting a talk about my recent mood. She had no idea what was coming. "Brenda," I started, my voice surprisingly steady. We need to talk, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Her smile faltered. Rick, honey, what's wrong? You've been so distant lately. I know things have been hard. I held up a hand. I said, listen. My eyes were locked on hers, devoid of any warmth. Let's start with your afternoons, particularly November 31st. I watched her face, searching for any flicker of recognition, any tell. Nothing. She was a master. You told me you were home, reading a book. Funny because Officer Ethan saw your car running a stop sign near the Holiday Inn that day. And later, that same car was found in the Holiday Inn parking lot just before you showed up at County Hospital with injuries consistent with running through a glass door. I paused, letting that sink in. Rick, what are you talking about? I told you, I fell. I was dizzy. She started, her voice rising, trying to sound offended. I cut her off. Don't bother, Brenda. I know everything. I slid the PI's photos across the table. Photos of her and Gary, entering hotels, dining, holding hands, clear as day. This is Gary Matthews, and these are the dates, times, and locations of your little rendezvous. They match up perfectly with the hotel charges on our joint credit card, by the way. I pushed the credit card statements forward. Her eyes darted from the photos to the statements, then back to my face. The color drained from her cheeks. The indignant act crumbled, replaced by a flicker of fear. Rick, I can explain. It's not what you think, she stammered, tears welling up in her eyes. The performance was still there, but it was cracking. Oh, I think it is exactly what I think, I countered, my voice flat. You've been having an affair with Gary for months, possibly over a year. You lied to me over and over again. She broke down then, a torrent of sobs. Okay, yes, I messed up, Rick. I had an affair, but you don't understand. You've been so distant, so busy with work, I felt neglected, unloved. Gary just paid attention to me, made me feel alive again. She was trying to blame me, to minimize her actions, to paint herself as the victim. Classic gaslighting. I let her sob for a moment, just watching her with a detached sort of curiosity. Then I leaned forward. Now that we're past the affair, let's talk about the stolen family heirlooms. I slid a printout of my safe deposit box contents, highlighting the missing items. My grandmother's ring, my mother's necklace. Gone. Where are they, Brenda? Her tears stopped abruptly. Her eyes widened, a new kind of panic replacing the fake remorse. I had to sell them, Rick. I needed money for personal reasons. Her voice was weak, evasive. Personal reasons? I scoffed. Or funding your secret life with Gary? I pushed forward the bank statements for her secret account, showing the unexplained deposits. And let's talk about these. This account, Brenda, the one I didn't know about, with money flowing into it that doesn't make any sense. She stared at the documents, her mouth opened slightly. She looked genuinely shocked at the depth of my investigation. She must have thought I was an idiot, completely oblivious. Then came the final blow. I slid the documentation from my business across the table. And these are the records showing you've been diverting funds directly from my business. My business, Brenda. The one that pays for this house, for our children's education, for everything we have. Brenda visibly recoiled. Her face went from pale to ashen. The tears were gone, replaced by a stark, terrified realization. This wasn't just about an affair. This was about criminal actions. This marriage is over, Brenda, I stated, each word precise, cold. I'm divorcing you. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. No, Rick, please, don't do this. And as for your personal reasons for selling my family's heirlooms and siphoning money from my business, I continued, ignoring her pleas, that's called fraud and embezzlement, Brenda. Those are criminal offenses with serious consequences. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. No, Rick, please, not that. Think of the children, Cody and Chloe. You can't let this get out. It'll ruin them. It'll ruin us, she pleaded, desperation twisting her features. Please, Rick, for the kids, don't tell anyone about the money. We can just say it was an affair, a marriage breakdown, but don't ruin their lives with this criminal stuff. The next day was a blur of consultations. I immediately contacted a divorce attorney, one known for being tough and thorough. I laid out every single piece of evidence, the PI reports, the photos, the bank statements, the credit card bills, the detailed timeline of her affair, and financial maneuvering. My attorney, a sharp woman named Sarah, looked through everything with a calm, professional demeanor. When she finished, she looked up, her expression grave. Rick, this is a very strong case for divorce. Infidelity is clear, and the financial misconduct. This isn't just a spouse taking a little extra for shopping. This is embezzlement, fraud, and theft. You have a clear basis for criminal charges against Brenda. Her words, though expected, still hit me hard. I was pursuing criminal charges against the mother of my children. That night, I had to tell Cody and Chloe. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. They're still young enough that I tried to shield them from the absolute ugliness, but I couldn't sugarcoat the core truth. Mom and I are getting a divorce, I started, my voice cracking. She was seeing another man, and she took money from our family accounts, money from my business. Their faces crumpled. Chloe, always the more emotional one, started sobbing immediately. Cody, usually so stoic, just stared, his eyes wide and vacant. They were devastated, utterly confused. Their world, their perfect family, was shattering right in front of them, and I was the one holding the hammer. It killed me. Brenda, of course, didn't waste any time. As soon as I told the kids, she swung into action. She turned into a full-blown victim, telling them how Dad has been so angry and cold, how he just doesn't understand, how my feelings were hurt. The gaslighting continued, even with our own children. She was twisting the narrative, making it sound like my actions, my discovery, were the real problem, not her years of deceit. She started calling family members, our mutual friends, spinning her story. Rick is being irrational. He's having a midlife crisis. He just wants to ruin my life. NGL, the betrayal from my wife, was one thing, but hearing friends I'd known for decades suddenly look at me with pity or suspicion, that stung. Our oldest daughter, Ashley, was away at college. I called her, told her what had happened. She came home immediately, frantic. She tried to mediate, bless her heart. Dad, please, just talk to her. Don't throw away 25 years. Can't you guys just try to work through this? Her eyes were pleading. Ashley, I said, my voice firm despite the ache in my chest. There's nothing to work through. This isn't just an affair. She stole from me, from our family, from our future. She sold your grandmother's jewelry. There is no coming back from that. The decision was made. Final. No reconciliation. Ever. With Sarah's help, I officially filed for divorce. The papers explicitly cited both the infidelity and the extensive financial misconduct. Simultaneously, I filed a detailed police report. The stolen jewelry, the embezzlement from my business, it was all laid out for the authorities. It felt heavy, a burden, but also a relief. The truth was out, legally documented. Brenda's parents, good people, tried to intervene. They called me, pleading, Rick, please think of the kids. Can't you forgive her? She made a mistake. I explained calmly about the extent of the financial crimes. I told them about the jewelry. I saw the realization dawn on their faces. They still loved their daughter, but they couldn't deny the facts. I remained steadfast. My decision was final. The house felt like a pea. I couldn't stay there, not with Brenda's constant presence, her manipulative tears, her accusations. I packed a few bags and moved out. Frank, bless his heart, opened his doors without question. It was temporary, but it was solace, a place where I could breathe without the suffocating weight of her lies. Cody and Chloe were caught in the agonizing middle. They loved both of us, and they were deeply hurt and confused. They didn't understand why their mom would do this, why their dad couldn't just forgive her. It was heartbreaking to watch. My children, innocent bystanders, were suffering the consequences of Brenda's selfish choices. My primary focus became them. I promised myself, then and there, that I would protect them, emotionally, financially, whatever it took. Despite my immense pain, despite the fact my world had been ripped apart, I would be their rock. The police investigation, thankfully, moved quickly. My meticulous report, combined with the PI's professional evidence, left little doubt. The charges came down hard, multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, and grand theft for the jewelry. Seeing Brenda's name on those official documents, knowing she was facing real prison time, was surreal. It was what I asked for, what she deserved, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a crushing inevitability. The trial was a blur of legal jargon, evidence presentation, and gut-wrenching testimony. I had to get on the stand, look at her, and calmly recount the story of her betrayal. I presented the PI's reports, the damning financial documents, the photos. Every piece of paper, every image, was a nail in the coffin of our life together. Brenda's family tried to rally support, sitting in the courtroom, giving me dirty looks. But there was no arguing with the facts. The evidence was simply overwhelming, irrefutable. And Gary, the other man, he didn't escape unscathed. The investigation revealed he was implicated in some of the financial dealings, receiving money Brenda had siphoned, perhaps even actively participating in some of the schemes. He faced his own legal troubles, which NGL was a small, cold comfort. At least he wasn't walking away clean. When the verdict came down, it was unanimous. Guilty. On all charges. Brenda was sentenced to a prison term. The exact number of years felt irrelevant in the face of the devastation. My wife, the mother of my children, was a convicted felon. The news hit the kids like a wrecking ball. Ashley, usually so composed, was furious, heartbroken. Cody, quieter, retreated into himself, a deep sadness clouding his eyes. They struggled immensely, grappling with the reality of their mother's conviction. How do you explain to your children that their mom, the woman who tucked them in at night, was a thief and a liar now behind bars? Chloe, being the youngest, was the most outwardly affected. She clung to me, her small hands clutching my shirt. She cried often, asking questions I couldn't fully answer. Why did Mom do it, Daddy? Is she a bad person? Will she ever come home? I held her, trying to comfort her, trying to explain something that was truly incomprehensible even to me. She leaned on me, and I became her anchor in a world that had suddenly turned upside down. Even from prison, Brenda continued her manipulative attempts. Letters, phone calls, always painting herself as the victim, blaming me, trying to turn the kids against me. Your father is so cruel. He hates me. He could have stopped this. It was a constant battle to counter her lies, to remind the kids of the truth without completely poisoning their image of their mother. The public scrutiny was brutal. Whispers followed me in the grocery store. Friends avoided eye contact. Some people sided with Brenda, convinced I was a vengeful husband overreacting to an affair. Others saw the truth and offered awkward condolences. I maintained a stoic front, head held high, but every glance, every whispered comment was a fresh sting. It was exhausting. Through it all, Frank was my rock. He never judged, never questioned my decisions. He just offered unwavering emotional support, a listening ear, and the occasional piece of gruff wisdom that only a father can give. You did what you had to do, son. The truth always comes out. His presence was a lifeline. I worked tirelessly to rebuild my shattered life and business. The legal fees were astronomical, and the financial strain from Brenda's embezzlement was significant. It took every ounce of my energy just to keep my head above water. But I did it for the kids. Their well-being, emotional and practical, remained my absolute top priority. I ensured they had therapy, stability, and as much normalcy as possible. The family home, the house where we'd built so many memories, had to be sold. It was part of the complex divorce and restitution settlement. It felt like another piece of my old life being torn away. Another funeral for what once was. Watching the sold sign go up was a punch to the gut, but also in a strange way, a step towards a new beginning. Reflecting on it all, the cost of Brenda's profound betrayal was multifaceted, devastating. It wasn't just the lost money, the ruined business, or the lost home. It was the shattering of trust, the permanent scar on my children's lives. the public humiliation, the years of pain. It was the realization that the woman I loved, the woman I built a life with, was a stranger capable of such calculated, cold-hearted deceit. Years passed, a blur of court dates, rebuilding my business, and trying to keep a semblance of normal for the kids. Brenda was in prison, a ghost in our lives, but her shadow stretched long. Then a few years into her sentence, we got the call. Unexpectedly, her health had deteriorated rapidly. Some rare, aggressive illness. It was quick. One day she was there, a name on a visitation list. The next, she was gone. Brenda had died in prison. The news hit me with a strange mix of emotions. Relief, grief, numbness. It was hard to process. The woman who had been my wife for 25 years, the mother of my children, was gone. I knew I had to go to the funeral. Not for her, maybe, but for closure. For my children. Chloe came with me, her hand holding mine tight. She'd always been the one who understood, who stood by me. But Ashley and Cody, they refused. Point blank. "I'm not going, Dad," Ashley said, her voice cold. "I don't care if she's gone, and I don't want to see you there." Cody echoed her sentiments, his face a mask of anger. The funeral itself was a grim, sparsely attended affair. Mostly Brenda's family, some distant relatives. As I stood there, a lone figure with Chloe beside me, a sharp voice cut through the quiet. "You happy now, Rick?" It was Ashley. She had come, not to mourn, but to confront. Her eyes were blazing, tears streaming down her face, but they weren't tears of grief for her mother. They were tears of pure, unadulterated rage at me. "You killed her, Dad. You put her in there. You just wanted revenge, and now she's gone because of you." Her words were like daggers tearing through years of pain, grief, and anger that I had tried to bury. Something in me snapped. The stoic front I'd maintained for years, the calm exterior, it shattered. All the hurt, the betrayal, the sacrifice, the stolen years, the shattered trust, the struggle to raise the kids alone, it erupted. "She chose her path, Ashley," I snarled, my voice raw, shaking. "She chose to lie, to steal, to cheat. She did this to herself. And if you can't see that, if you still blame me for her choices, then you're as dead to me as your mother." The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Ashley recoiled as if struck. I knew the moment they left my mouth that I had made an unforgivable mistake. But the pain was too deep, the wound too fresh. I looked over at Cody, who had just walked in, drawn by the commotion. He heard every word. His face was a mirror of Ashley's, shock and a deep, wounded anger. "You too, Cody," I shouted, the words ripping from my throat. "If you side with her, then you're dead to me too." I barely remember leaving that funeral. Chloe was clinging to me, sobbing. I walked out into the harsh daylight, leaving behind not just Brenda, but my two eldest children. The family rift wasn't just painful, it felt irreparable, a gaping chasm between us. 5 years, 5 long years of silence. Not a single phone call, text, or email from Ashley or Cody. They completely cut me out. Holidays were quiet, filled with a profound emptiness. Chloe was my constant, my steadfast companion. She went to college, got a job, but she always called, always visited. She was the loyal, loving presence that kept me from completely spiraling. She was the one who listened when I occasionally, quietly, reflected on those harsh words at the funeral. Those words, those wounds, they never truly healed for me either. They were a constant echo in my mind. Then out of nowhere the phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Dad?" It was Ashley. Her voice, older, softer, hesitant. She was a mother now, she told me. Had a little girl, my granddaughter, who was just starting to talk. She wanted to reconnect. She wanted to heal. She came to visit a few weeks later. We sat on the porch of the smaller house I'd bought after selling the old one. We talked awkwardly at first, then slowly, carefully. She apologized for her words at the funeral, said she understood now as a mother herself the kind of pain and betrayal I must have felt. She wanted to start over. It was incredibly difficult to return her affection. My heart, so scarred, so guarded for so long, felt like a muscle that had atrophied. I nodded, mumbled, tried to be open, But the years of pain, the deep estrangement, had built walls too high, too thick. After she left, the house felt empty again. The silence was deafening. I sat there, and for the first time in years, I truly broke down. The stoicism crumbled. Tears streamed down my face. Tears of pain, regret for my harsh words, sorrow for the lost years, and an overwhelming sense of loss for the family I once had. But beneath it all, beneath the crushing weight of grief and the bitter taste of betrayal, a tiny, fragile spark ignited. A glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this broken family could begin to mend. Brenda's betrayal wasn't just an affair, it was a detonation. It shattered a perfect life, not just for me, but for our innocent children. The profound consequences stretched beyond the immediate pain of infidelity and the shock of financial fraud. It led to criminal charges, a prison sentence, and ultimately, her death. It tore our family apart, turning children against their father, creating a chasm of silence that lasted half a decade. The cost was immeasurable. A lost home, a damaged business, public humiliation, and the agonizing emotional scars etched onto the hearts of my kids. Even as a fragile hope for reconciliation flickers years later, the truth remains. Some wounds never fully heal. The choices we make, especially in betrayal, carry a weight that reverberates through generations, leaving a legacy of pain, regret, and the constant, yearning hope for a broken family to find its way back to something resembling peace.